Hello, Sagittarius, and welcome to your reading. This is Bright Soul Collective Tarot, and these will be your intuitive insights and advice for the month of March 2022. And this reading will be for Sagittarius, Sun, Moon, and Rising. And as always, please keep in mind these readings are general in nature, so not all of the messages that come through will pertain to your situation specifically. So I do highly recommend you take anything and everything that resonates in whatever way that makes sense for you. Keep an open mind to anything that might be helpful to you over the course of the month, and simply leave the rest. So Sagittarius, I hope that February treated you well. I have your 3 oracle cards here ready to go. We will pull some tarot, some clarifiers, and finish off with some affirmations. And I will start the video with your channeled messages, which I sat down to do before your oracle cards even came out. So that's just for fun. And yeah, I have to say, like, I was not feeling it this morning. I had some coffee and I rallied and I'm here. I'm feeling a little weird today. So I'm going to do the best that I can. If my voice is a little bit off, that's probably why. So yeah, on that note, as I was doing my ritual before the read, which I do every time, it's a very like calming, relaxing kind of ritual that I've got before I read cards for you all. And it's funny because while I was in the process of doing it, I felt like I didn't want to do it. And I felt like, it's like, I know it's good for me. I know that it's necessary, but I was feeling like impatient. Like I just want to get on with it. And so that might very well be an energy that you're in or that you're struggling with. Maybe, taking the time to do the things that you know are good and helpful to you, especially the things that might be kind of like repetitive or maybe not super exciting, or even just, taking time for yourself as opposed to doing something, around the house or like more productive. So that might be something that you're up against. And if that is the case, I would just encourage you to do your best to stick with it and try to just be present and give yourself the opportunity to connect with whatever it is, because I think it's natural at times to avoid the things that are best for us. But yeah, so anyways, and then I also wanted to say that I was really drawn to amethyst this morning, so that might have some significance to you, amethyst. And it's funny, so before I actually started channeling the messages, even when I was doing a pre-shuffle of your tarot cards to get everything set up for the reading, the 7 of Wands happened to pop out. And as soon as I saw it, I got the song like Wu-Tang Clan Ain't Nothing to Fuck With. Like, and that line just kept like repeating in my head. And so I don't know if that song is meaningful to you. Maybe that's your jam. Maybe that's your anthem for the month of March. Or maybe you're just very much in that energy, like feeling a little bit spicy, like no one's gonna fuck with you this month. But I thought that was kind of funny. So I figured I would mention it to you in case that has some kind of significance. And the next thing that I noticed before I really started channeling as well is I had this really strong physical sensation of like a lump in my throat. And it's kind of like if you've ever been in a situation where you're either crying really hard or you're trying to like choke back tears and it just feels like there's a boulder in your throat. It's kind of like that feeling. And so it's possible like maybe that is the case. Maybe you've got some emotions that you're holding back or you're choking back. But I also got the the impression that perhaps you might be having a difficult time with your throat chakra. Maybe your throat chakra is blocked. If that sounds like it could be you, I would recommend you do some research and see. There are lots of helpful resources to help you determine like, what kinds of symptoms and side effects happen when throat chakras are blocked, and different kinds of exercises that you can do, different foods that you can eat, even different crystals that you can use to help you clear that out. And obviously speaking your truth is a big part of moving that blocked energy, if that does apply to you. So anyways, for the channeled messages, the first thing that came through was reinvigorated. And so, yeah, maybe March has got you feeling like a little bit more energetic, maybe a little bit more hopeful for what's to come, kind of coming at the things that you've been up against from a new perspective. But I get the sense that there's kind of like a renewed sense of energy to help you kind of continue along your path, whatever that looks like for you. The next thing that I got is haters gonna hate. So you may be somebody that deals with difficult people on a regular basis. Maybe there's one specific person that you have a difficult time with, and you might just find yourself up against a lot of opposition, or people are putting you in a position where you need to defend yourself. And that's where that Seven of Wands kind of comes up. Is like maybe people are like trying to knock you off your game, or, you know, there's some conflict and tension around. And it's kind of just like being willing to just brush it off and know that, you know, if people are coming at you with that energy, that says a lot more about them and their happiness and the inner work that needs to be done on their part. It's not a reflection of you, and it's not something that you need to take responsibility for. And I feel like you're kind of in that energy where you're not going to let somebody bring you down just because they're not handling their own shit. And then the next thing that came through is, why should I even care? And so perhaps that's all connected. Like maybe you're being more selective about your time and your attention and your effort and your resources. And instead of just, you know, usually Sagittarians have a big heart. They're very like loving, giving people. And, you know, maybe you're at a point in time where you're kind of having to scale back and be more selective about who is receiving your time and effort, right? And to make sure that you've got enough for yourself and the people that are important to you. And just, yeah, like scaling back a little bit. And so maybe you're starting to ask questions about certain people or certain situations, and trying to budget your time and energy a little bit better so that you can make the most of that. So it's kind of like, instead of indiscriminately giving and loving and supporting everyone, especially if you're up against some opposition or you've got some challenging people, like, you know, in your orbit, then it's starting to ask, like, you know, is it worth caring about? Or is this worth investing in? Or is this going to be detrimental to my mental health to like have a conversation with this person, or to go to like this dinner or whatever? So it's like, I think coming into a higher level of discernment about, and not from a place of like arrogance or an unwillingness to share and to be with people. It's just recognizing what's right for you and being willing to treat yourself with kindness and not put yourself in situations that you know are not going to be, that aren't necessarily worth your time or your concern, especially if it's something negative that brings you down. The next thing that came through was feeling festive. So you might just be feeling happy. You might be feeling like you've got reason for celebrate. You might be to celebrate. You might be looking for reasons to celebrate. I was trying to think of what goes on in March. So St. Patrick's Day, maybe you're feeling particularly festive. I don't know. And the next thing that came through, so it's a cider or a cidery. There was a word in front of it and I couldn't quite figure out what it is. It started with an E, and I'm pretty sure there was an R and an S in there somewhere. But yeah, I couldn't get the word, but it's like E something cider or cidery. So I don't know, maybe you know a place, maybe that makes sense to you. I am completely lost when it comes to that. The next thing that came through was frenetic. And yeah, frenetic, like Frenetic. And it's a word that I've heard before, but I don't think I've ever actually really used. So kind of weird for that to come up. I Googled it and it says fast and energetic in a wild and uncontrolled way. So it's almost like frantic, it's almost like hyperactive. But when frenetic came through, I didn't necessarily get like a frantic, anxiety-ridden kind of feeling from it. It was more like excitement. And so I don't know, like the thing that came to mind is like getting really jacked up on caffeine and like cleaning your whole house. So maybe it's just trying to like, maybe you've got some stagnant energy and things have been moving slowly and it's been kind of dull, and maybe you're trying to like spice things up, get yourself moving, and it's kind of like, or even just expressing yourself, giving yourself the ability to express yourself, whether it's like dance or whatever, to let loose and expend energy, without it necessarily needing to be, I don't know, practical or channeled into accomplishing something. That's kind of the vibe that I got. So we'll see if that makes sense for you. The next thing that I got was pina colada. I don't know, maybe you like pina coladas. So I have no idea. You'll know if that has any kind of significance to you. And the next thing after that was greasy cheeseburger. So I don't know, maybe it's kind of like struck me as like hangover food. So maybe you have a favorite place to go get a greasy cheeseburger. And it doesn't have to be hangover food, but I mean, yeah. And then the next thing that came through was enveloped by love. And so you might be in a position where you are feeling like you're receiving a lot of love and support from the people around you, and you're really just trying to like soak it all in and have gratitude and you know, allow that to kind of charge you up in a certain way. And if that's not the case, then it might be a sense that like you need to kind of envelop yourself in love. Maybe you're going through a particularly difficult time. Maybe you're feeling kind of vulnerable and you really need a lot of love, and to seek out the individuals that are going to kind of help, you know, put a protective blanket of love over you as you're working through some difficult things or when you need some extra reassurance. And then the last thing that came through is magic is real. And yeah, it is. So cool. But also maybe you're starting to come to realizations that there's a lot more than meets the eye, and that, you know, all the little signs and synchronicities that happen, our ability to connect with, you know, information intuitively, it could be spiritual practice. But yeah, maybe you're starting to realize that you have a deeper connection, or that there's more of that kind of entering into your awareness. And maybe March is a good month to start connecting with those things and seeing where it takes you. So that's it for your channeled messages. So we'll get into your oracle cards now. So your first, the ever unfolding rose, cracked open. It's happening for you, not to you. I have a personal history with this card. I'm going to pull your others and then I'll explain. Your next is orphaned. That looks really sad. Okay, and finally, we have you are not alone. Isolation, physical connection, community. Okay, so with this ever unfolding rose card, which says cracked open, it's happening for you, not to you. That was actually the first card that I ever pulled from this particular deck when I first got it. And I was going through a really, really hard time. And so I can appreciate that while this message may be meaningful, it can also be really difficult to accept and to integrate. And yeah, it's not an easy energy to be in. And so I think for this card specifically, I actually want to read you what, like, directly from the guidebook, just because the words I find are really powerful. I don't know that I could do the same level of justice, but I think that I would like you to hear exactly what the book says word for word. So I'll read it to you now. And it says, the challenge of life is to keep your heart open when you most want to close it, to let life crack you open, to open through hurt and loss, to allow what is falling to fall away. Being human is a courageous act. A life well lived is full of losses and tragedies as much as triumphs and adventures. Wherever you find yourself at the moment, life is coaxing you to keep your heart open no matter how much it hurts, to continually unfold, to let life crack you open. Perhaps you are going through a difficult time right now. Instead of cursing the difficulty, see it as a blessing. To open yourself up to the truth that perhaps, as hard as it may be, life is happening for you, not to you. And one day, in the not too distant future, you may just bless the thing that broke you down and cracked you open because the world needs you open. Now is the time to go gently. Treat yourself like a tender, sweet baby, to wrap yourself in a blanket and trust that the mother has you cradled in her arms. The seas may not all be smooth sailing, but you are safe and you are held. One day, not too far from today, you will look back at the transformation and be blown away by the poetry of life. Everything is going to be okay. Yeah, and then it says everything is going to be okay. Let it crack you open. So it's like, yeah, that's a very powerful energy, but it's also very difficult, especially if you're going through some heavy stuff and you're trying to kind of integrate that understanding that, as difficult or as negative as it may seem to be, that there's actually, the potential to have a huge amount of opportunity for growth or transformation. And it's not necessarily something that you can make sense of right now. And so it seems like this month, your power is going to be in your vulnerability, and that might be to a certain extent embracing the struggle, embracing the things that don't feel great, embracing the things that feel challenging and difficult and kind of low, and recognizing that, they are happening for a reason, and you're meant to move through this energy. Because if you're resisting it and avoiding it, it's really hard to move through it. But to kind of lean into it and let it change you seems like it's going to be empowering for you as you continue along your journey. And so you're not going to be stuck in this energy or this particular struggle forever. It is something that's going to, that you're going to move through. And so it kind of seems like you just have to let it run its course and see what it has to show you about yourself, about your strength, maybe about your self-worth, maybe about your relationships, whatever way that energy is showing up for you now, and especially this month. Every single time that you happen to get down or on those really, really hard days, of course, give yourself the time to mourn, to grieve, to cry, to release those emotions so that you're not bottling things up. But try to always bring yourself home to the fact that it's happening for you, right? So you're not a victim to your life. This is just a step in your, in the divine plan that's laid out for you, whether you can make sense of it or not, because unfortunately, that is the human experience. We have some really intense highs and really intense lows. And, just because we're struggling or we're hurt or things are difficult right now, it doesn't mean that we've done something wrong or that we need to do something differently to prevent it from happening again. It really is just a human experience because we've come here to learn. And sometimes that learning is not pretty and fun. And so you might be going through something like that right now that you feel like really has broken you open. And it's interesting because there's a definite theme here too. So with orphaned and you are not alone coming out together, it's basically saying yeah, you might feel alone. You might feel lonely. You might feel displaced. Maybe you don't have a place that you belong, or perhaps you don't have people that are there to fully understand you or support you, or you may be isolating yourself, right? Or there might be something getting in the way of you connecting with people. Because orphaned can be a sense of abandonment as well. And so for that to come out and then you're not alone to come out after that, it's kind of even if you are feeling a little bit isolated right now, and maybe that's part of what this struggle is, you don't have to be entirely alone. And it's trusting that you're not going to be in that energy forever, and that perhaps this feeling of kind of loneliness or disconnection or abandonment or, not having a place where you feel like you quite belong, this can also be an identity crisis. So if you've gone through a major shift in your life and it's changed how you're showing up in the world, how you perceive yourself, what your values are, what you're doing, that inevitably that's going to impact all of the relationships that you have, but it's also going to impact your attitude toward life. And so there might be certain things that you used to participate in. There might be certain relationships. There might be certain hobbies. There might be any number of things that used to be important to you, that used to work for you. And if you've gone through a major shift or an identity crisis or even a shift in identity and your values have shifted, then inevitably some of those things are likely going to fall away and be less important. And it can be scary to acknowledge that and let go of that, especially if it's based in relationships or connected to relationships and groups of people that we feel we no longer fit in with or we need to move away from. And it's trusting that if you're experiencing something like that, even if you do feel lonely right now, it's not going to last forever. It's just bringing you to a greater level of clarity about who you are and what's important to you so that you can find a new tribe, or you can find a new hobby, or you can find a new job, whatever it is. You're going to be moving in the direction of something that's more aligned based on who you are now. And it might just be that right now you're experiencing the difficult kind of part of that shift where you're having to accept that maybe things are different, maybe things don't align. and maybe some things need to be let go of. And it might not even be something that you actively have to do. It could be something that is imposed on you in some way, if that makes sense. It could be, somebody else is making the decision for you, or something happens that's out of your control that you can't really do much about. So it's not even necessary. It might be that you have to make a decision consciously, but it might be that decision was already made for you for some reason, and you just kind of have to be able to flow with it. But I think it's really beautiful that You're Not Alone came up, because it seems like whatever it is that you feel like you're losing, and whatever isolation you're facing, whatever struggle is kind of breaking you open at the moment, it seems to me as though it's giving you the opportunity to connect with a new group of people, or with the people in your life that are the most important, the most meaningful, the most aligned. And to kind of be aware of who those people are, who is in your corner, who can you rely on, who can you reach out to, who can give you support, particularly if you're feeling like you're struggling with this information, or with this transformation, and then if you have the opportunity to be your most authentic self and to draw people in, what does that look like? And what do the people that you are trying to connect with embody in terms of values and interests and so on? Because just getting into that energy where you're kind of willing to accept that there is something more out there for you is really the first step in bringing that into your reality, and being able to recognize when people do jive. And so it's basically saying, like, if you're feeling left out or excluded, or if you have to kind of remove yourself from certain situations, or you have been removed from certain situations and you're feeling kind of alone, it's like, who can you rely on during those times? And how can you open up to more opportunities for connection? So it's basically, it's not focusing so much on what you lost or why you lost it or what the challenge is, but maybe if that is feeling heavy, spinning it on its head and figuring out, like, how is that helping you to connect with something? I don't necessarily want to say better, but better for you, more aligned for you, and that will give you the support that you're looking for, right? And the other general vibe that I get from this as well, just with these two cards and with the sense of being orphaned, so it might also have to do with family, like feeling left out of family, maybe feeling like you don't fit in with your family or your close friends, if friends or family instead. It could, maybe you feel like the black sheep, maybe you feel like people don't necessarily support you or understand you in the ways that are important, and the dynamic is difficult because you're kind of the one that doesn't fit in, and you can't rely on your family for the type of understanding and support that's important to you. And that might actually come up with that, like, Seven of Wands energy, feeling defensive. Like maybe a lot of the people in your family kind of make you feel a little bit orphaned because you don't quite fit in. And perhaps if you're not participating in generational cycles, or if you're trying to do your own kind of personal development and ascend from whatever kind of difficult energies are plaguing family or even like close friendships, that it could be that those individuals are putting you on the defensive because you're not embodying what they're accustomed to and what is comfortable for them. And so the vibe that I get is that if family specifically, or like very, very close long-term friendships, are not necessarily healthy, and you don't necessarily feel like you fit in or you belong, that can be a really difficult experience to have, because family is family. And it's recognizing that that's okay. It is difficult, and there is a certain amount of mourning, obviously, that goes along with that. We all want to be able to have that support that we're looking for, but it's basically saying, like, if that's the situation that you're in, you have a soul family that you can connect with. You might already know some of these people right now. And those are the people that you can lean on. And that it's okay. It's a really normal thing. It's not easy. Or you may have actually like lost a parent or important family members, like, and you're feeling like maybe you did have strong familial connections and you're disconnected from those individuals that gave you a lot of support. Maybe you lost them, maybe they passed away, or something like that. So yeah, it could leaving you feel as though the people that you need the most or used to receive the most support from are no longer available to you. But this is really also encouraging you to recognize that. So the idea is, the older the soul, the deeper the cave. So it's natural for people who are maybe like a little bit deeper, a little bit more wise beyond their years, like old souls, to isolate, right? And to spend time on their own and to enjoy time on their own and need that time to reflect and recharge. And that's a totally normal and healthy thing. And you'll know if that applies to you. But there's also a balance, right? So it's knowing when you need to take time away for yourself to replenish, but not making a comfort zone out of that isolation, especially if you're going through difficult circumstances. It's like being willing to connect with the help and the support and the resources and the love that's available to you, because you don't have to do it alone, and you're not meant to do it alone. You know, humans, we're meant to interact with each other and to support each other. So it's about recognizing when you need to connect with people and making more of a priority of connecting with people and making sure that those are the people that you align with, right? That you're not trapping yourself in these kind of like cyclical interactions with people that make you feel left out, and aligning with the people who make space for you, who understand you, and who can support you so that you can receive their love and resources, but also so that you can kind of introduce more of that energy into your life, and you'll be able to recognize when more people with that energy show up and you're calling in kind of like a soul family. And this also speaks to physical connection. And so it's basically saying like social media and digital, technology and phones and so on, and give us the impression that we are able to connect with people more often and that we are, more connected than ever, but that's really not the case. And so even if you have really deep interactions with people and really deep friendships, if that's based mostly in like technology, it can be really difficult to experience the real depth of connection by that means, right? And it's like we don't know what kind of consequences that has for us, like how much we are sacrificing in terms of our emotional and spiritual health and well-being by not actually being in the presence of other people, because we can be really greatly impacted by other people's energy. And so it's basically saying it's important to gather with people that like in person, right? And even physical touch might be something that is important. Yeah, and it's just also recognizing that this again kind of mirrors that if family or friends or specific relationships, maybe you're on a path of personal development that doesn't necessarily align or is different from somebody else, and perhaps that person just can't fully understand what you're going through or be supportive, or maybe they don't have the same kind of interests and priorities. And if that is the case, that can be extra isolating. And so it's just knowing that this is just a part of your journey to finding people who do align. And that inevitably you're not going to be for everyone. Not everyone is going to be, to share the same kind of beliefs and so on. And that's okay. They say like rejection is protection, essentially. And I'm not going to say God's, because we're not going to attach this to like religion specifically, but however you believe in that. Okay. So you actually got 2 for your first placement. So we have the Queen of Cups and the Page of Wands. Okay. And then Judgment. Why do I feel like you got this card last month too? Okay, let's get you third card here. Right. My goodness, I am fumbling these cards hard. Wow, this is very similar to the last reading I did too. Goodness. Maybe we're all going through a lot of the same kind of stuff. All right, so let's get you one more card. Okay. I really like that. Let me just space these out a little bit. And then the bottom of the deck. Oh, we have 4 of Wands. All right, Sagittarius. So these first 2 cards came out for basically the energy that you are encouraged to come into the month of March with. And so I feel like it's all about connection to your emotions, acknowledgement of your emotions, but not in the sense that you are, deeply sitting in those emotions and getting swept away. It's recognizing that you have the strength and the stability to be aware of your emotions and the things that are challenging and difficult without being completely overcome. And so you can kind of like harness the power of your emotions to show you what it is that you're experiencing, to help you hone in on your truth, what's important to you, and what there is to be learned from the experiences that you're having. So for example, if you are experiencing something that's really hurtful or something that's making you feel really like vulnerable and cracked open, and to have to be kind of trying to embrace that energy in order to be changed by your experience, it's recognizing that you have a level of emotional intelligence available to you. And so obviously we all experience emotions differently, and it is a very personal experience, but it can also be difficult not to take our emotions and the situations that evoke them personally and create a story for ourselves about why it happened or what that means about us. And this is basically saying, like, to not be afraid to sit in your emotions and to figure out what that means to you. What they're trying to tell you. Maybe what aligns, what doesn't align. What do you love? What do you need more of? What is going to be most healing for you? What doesn't sit well with you? Because it's not just emotion, it's also intuitive awareness. And so it's like, she's pretty unbothered and she's really kind of in her own energy, her own world, because she trusts that all of the answers are within her and that she can feel her way through. So she doesn't have to know exactly why everything is happening, but she's trusting her own experience and she's giving herself space to acknowledge and to work through that, but she's balancing it out, right? So it's about even getting a step back from your emotions and from your experiences and being able to see it from the perspective like, okay, I am experiencing this, but what if I approach this from the perspective that it's happening for me, not to me? What might I learn from this? What are these emotions telling me about myself and my values? And, based on that, is there something that maybe doesn't align with what I really want? Am I doing something that doesn't align with the outcome that I'm looking for? Am I representing myself in a way that's undercutting myself? Am I dedicating too much of my time to interactions and relationships with people that make me feel displaced or left out, right? So it's recognizing that there is power in your emotions, and it seems like this month is a really good time to tap into that and to see what it has to tell you. And for that to come out with the Page of Wands, it's also saying, so that's going hand in hand with creative expression and new opportunity for passion and enthusiasm to be kind of injected into your life, right? So it's kind of like anything is possible. And if you're feeling solid enough in yourself and you have a good enough level of self-awareness that you can feel comfortable expressing yourself freely, then and it could even be actually that whatever these kind of heavy emotions are, whatever you're experiencing, however that energy is showing up for you, that perhaps part of you working through that and expressing yourself It could be like a creative endeavor. It could be art. It could even be journaling, right? It could be anything that you are channeling that emotion and in that into a creative kind of outlet to express yourself. So if you're finding it hard to kind of make sense of it just as is, or maybe even like to explain to people, it's like maybe you just need to like put some paint on a canvas, or like, yeah, it really could be anything. Like this is all about you and your inspiration, your passion, your creativity, the things that excite you, the things that light you up, that bring you to life, and giving yourself permission not only to acknowledge and to connect with that, but to start expressing that and knowing that can impact your life in any number of ways. And it really kind of opens the door for you to be able to take your inspiration and your excitement and to channel that into the actions that you take in order to change the world around you, to make different decisions and connect with energy that is more matches yours. So it's basically like getting more in touch with yourself and your emotions and expressing yourself. And that could be like in a therapeutic way as well. This could be dance, this could be singing, this could be like anything that really feels good, right? So that's the energy that you're encouraged to come into the month with. And I get that it's kind of encouraging you to take a lighter path through validating your own emotions and understanding your experiences, because I don't get the sense that this is something that you can really control or shift. It's kind of something that you have to just experience. You have to kind of sit in that vulnerability and see how it's going to change your life, instead of, resisting or even beating up on yourself for struggling. And your challenge this month is to let go of judgment and limitations, the things that you tell yourself that keep you stuck or keep you in certain dynamics that don't serve you, or prevent you from connecting with people or places or energies that feel exciting, that feel aligned, that you feel drawn to, right? And so it's recognizing that it's not just the things that you've come to know about the world through your own individual experiences, but it's also the things that have been passed down to you. So it could be things that you learned from teachers, from your family. It could be, generational trauma. And this is just judgment. This card is about being kind enough to yourself to recognize when you have internalized things and you're placing those kinds of restrictions or pressures or expectations on yourself that don't necessarily serve you and don't necessarily align with what is in your best interest or your highest good. And so a good way to kind of recognize this type of energy in your life, or where it might be showing up, is to figure out is there somewhere that you're feeling particularly limited? Is there something that's kind of depressing, like, well, all I really want to do is this and I can't, right? And it's like investigating, why can't you? What kind of beliefs do you have about life and about yourself and about the things that you're able to achieve, right? And perhaps you feel heavily judged by people. If you're feeling isolated and you're feeling misunderstood and like you can't quite find the place that you belong, especially if it's within a specific group of people or your family, you might feel as though they're judging you. You might feel judged because you don't belong, and you might judge yourself because of that, like in turn. And so it's basically being willing to release yourself of the weight of other people's opinions and expectations, and know that, especially if you don't align with them, they don't know you, they don't understand you, and so they can't judge you either, because they don't have, like, why would they want to? But they also don't have the information to really truly know you, and they're not able to see you for who you are. So their judgments don't mean anything. Nobody's judgments on you mean anything, because nobody really truly knows you as well as you know yourself. And if you are absorbing and accepting a whole bunch of judgment and criticism, or worried about receiving that from the people around you, all that's doing is denying yourself a relationship to yourself based on honesty and authenticity, and giving yourself a chance to really shine your own light, right? Because yeah, it might be difficult, right? Because if you've been telling yourself stories about your value based on how you fit in, or the types of people that you surround yourself by, it might be like time to delve inward and focus more on your own individual identity instead of, maybe keeping yourself in a box. So if you've got important relationships and there are things that are important to you, there may be things that have shifted. Maybe you have gone through some kind of identity change or shift or crisis, and some core values have shifted. Maybe you've come into a new set of like interests or hobbies that you want to explore, and maybe you're afraid that you'll be judged for doing it because people won't understand. It's recognizing that you don't have to hold yourself back from the things that your soul is calling you to do, the things that feel interesting and exciting, because that is part of you. That is a key to moving through life in your own unique way, is following your heart and connecting with those things because they're showing up for a reason and they're calling to you for a reason. And you can't judge yourself for experiencing that because that's just the way it is. That's not under your control. And if you are to shut yourself off from all the things that are meaningful or important to you for fear of judgment, or to meet the expectations of other people who ultimately, are they going to give you the level of fulfillment that you were looking to create for yourself? It's not likely. So you don't want to sell yourself short. So that could be a major challenge for you, is just letting go of these expectations and self-criticism. And the way that you are kind of encouraged to do so is just start connecting with more love, right? And so that really gives me this impression, going hand in hand with you are not alone. It's really leaning on the people that are around you that you can count on, the people that do know you, or the people who are going to give you the space to work through whatever you're going through and to be supported no matter what, right? Like people who aren't going to judge you or keep you kind of locked in a box or tied to a certain version of yourself that maybe you've outgrown, maybe you're evolving, right? And so this is also about self-love, like treating yourself with love and compassion as you work through emotions, because cups are always associated with a depth of emotion, but it's also trusting your intuition, trusting your own path, and seeing that there are opportunities for love and connection and fulfillment everywhere you turn, and to be willing to follow your heart and connect with that, right? And so this goes hand in hand with not isolating yourself further. If you're already feeling isolated and you're struggling, now is probably the time that you really do need to lean on the people and the resources that you have that can support you, or connecting with more of that, being open to that, and being open to sharing on that same level. Because if you're going through a lot of emotional stuff and you're going through healing and you're going through a kind of like a shift in identity, it's like you do need this deeper level of connection and support and love and meaning. And this can even be like like intuition, collective consciousness, all of that, like psychic awareness, that kind of stuff. So it's basically being willing to connect with the opportunities for love around you, to give and receive love, first and foremost with yourself, but then with everybody else as well. And being selective about the people that you connect with on this level. Not everybody is going to meet you on this level. Not everyone is going to have an interest in participating on this level, but it's finding people who are willing to kind of step into their emotions with you and willing to connect with you on that deeper level, willing to let you go there and to give you a safe space to do that. Right? So that is going to be key for you in navigating this, because if you're going through a lot, you do need extra love. And it's not to get discouraged that with whatever you're going through, it's not to be discouraged that, there's nothing or no one out there for you, or the love or the friendship or whatever it is that's most important to you isn't available to you. It's likely you're just in a period of transition where you're letting go of certain things that don't serve you and don't make you feel great, and you're connecting, with what is available to you, so that the more you connect with this love, the more that you exude that, and that energy influences the decisions that you make moving forward, and that energy is going to attract more people that are on a similar level. So it's kind of like we have to be vulnerable to receive vulnerability and to share that with other people. So you may have to take the lead, or it may be just recognizing the opportunities for deeper levels of meaning and happiness and joy and fulfillment that are coming up, and being willing to step into them and take advantage of them rather than isolating, especially in person if you have the opportunity this month. And so the highest possible outcome this month, if you are kind of in this energy and willing to connect with this in whatever way makes the most sense to you, you're the only one who will know that. But it's basically like getting freedom or closing the door on old thought patterns, right? Thought patterns, fears, perceptions. You know, the 10 of Swords is about beliefs and perceptions that don't necessarily serve us being released, because 10 is coming to the end. So if you've been on a long path of battling your mind, battling your thoughts and your perceptions, and a lot of times the Swords energy, it can be really jarring, uncomfortable. It can be even like really harsh, negative, fearful, critical thoughts or thought patterns or beliefs that kind of cut us down. They have the ability to sabotage us. They have the ability to keep us up at night. It can result in a lot of depression and anxiety. And so if you've been on this path where you've kind of been at war with your thoughts and with your mind, and even overthinking and overanalysis, especially if you're denying your feelings and your emotional experience, and you're trying to think your way out of situations, or if you're trying to please other people and think like, well, no, I shouldn't do this, even though it's important to me because, you know, so-and-so wants this from me. That is overthinking a situation rather than following your heart and honoring yourself. So it could be that you've been on this path where you've been trying to honor yourself more, to have a greater level of awareness of your emotions and to kind of move along your path of healing. And yeah, this basically says that March could be a really good month to kind of get to the point where you are ready to close the door on those beliefs and those thought patterns, the criticism, the anxiety, the stuff that has been kind of wearing at you and bringing you down. Disconnecting from that and giving yourself the opportunity to connect with beliefs and perspectives and information that's going to be empowering, that's going to be a little bit lighter, that's going to be more aligned with who you are and what you want to create, because there's opportunity here, right? To take back the power of your thoughts and your beliefs and to make them work for you, right? Because this is also about vision, right? And being able to communicate. So Swords is also about communication, communicating your truth clearly. And so it could be that, you know, that over the course of this month, you're able to kind of let go of those things that are holding you back and really start speaking your truth, really start sharing yourself honestly without fear and without overthinking, and giving yourself a chance to kind of let go of your own self-judgment and step more into love and interactions with the people who are going to be most supportive of you without overthinking or self-sabotaging or, you know, taking a difficult situation and making it worse. Because this can also be that energy of like a victim mentality, right? It can be like the original depiction is somebody with a whole bunch of swords in their back, and it's kind of like what doesn't kill you makes you stronger. If you lose, don't lose the lesson. So if you've experienced all of these difficult things, it can be difficult experiences, it can be difficult thoughts and feelings and beliefs that are not serving us, then it's like, what can you let go of? You've been through all of this, you've hurt. What lesson can you learn so that you can leave that energy in the past, take the lesson and align with something better? And so, yeah, so that journey can also have a lot to do with feeling like, you know, maybe life hasn't been fair to you. And it seems like there could, if this applies to you, if this makes sense to you, this could be an opportunity to kind of release that victim mindset and to come into the realization that life is happening for you, not to you. You're not at the cause, or I don't know, I'm not going to say this the right way because my brain is scrambled this morning, but basically like life isn't happening in such a, I don't know why I'm fumbling over my words so badly. But yeah, it's happening for you, not to you. So, you know, life isn't out to get you. Even the most difficult situations are meant to help you learn and grow and elevate. And if you can start telling yourself that instead of like, oh, why me? Why did this happen to me? It must be because I don't deserve this or whatever. If you can kind of axe all of those stories that you tell yourself when you're going through tough times, then really you're going to be able to transform that energy into something that's more powerful and more aligned. And then when you clear this kind of energy of being cracked open, you'll have more clarity of what direction you want to head in. Okay, so under the Queen of Cups, we have the Hierophant. Let's get a clarification for Page of Wands. Nine of Wands. Okay, let's get a clarifier for Judgment. We have the Magician. And Ace of Cups. We have Ace of Swords, which I love. And then finally, we'll get a clarifier for this 10 of Swords. This is the most gentle 10 of Swords I think I've seen depicted thus far. I really like it. It does have a sense of like, you know, there's hope, there's opportunity. It's kind of like new horizons, like closing the door on that old, difficult energy, those difficult thought patterns, and moving towards something lighter, right? And it could also be coming out of anxiety or depression as well. Oh, and the Death card. My goodness. Yeah, death is all about endings too, so that goes perfectly. And then at the bottom of the deck is the Hermit. I forgot to address this Four of Wands at the bottom of the deck, but now that it's come out with the Hermit, I kind of get the sense that maybe something that has been leading you, maybe something that's been on your mind and influencing you is wanting to connect, wanting to enjoy, wanting to have a reason to celebrate. The Four of Wands is often, yeah, a card of celebration. It could be like wedding, a marriage, and if you believe in twin flames, that is also the twin flame card. So it can be like a divine union, something that's passionate and exciting. But you can see here, like they're dancing, they're celebrating, they're enjoying themselves. It's carefree. There's like a stable environment to connect with that wild kind of fun energy. And with that being here with the Hermit, it's perhaps you haven't had as many opportunities to connect with that type of energy or those types of relationships, or maybe you've been kind of turned inward and really reflecting on yourself and your experiences, getting to know yourself better. And so it could even be celebrating your own personal growth and the way that your perspective on yourself has changed, and, you know, recognizing this kind of wealth of inner wisdom that you have. And it's like, it goes hand in hand with being an old soul, right? So it's like, yeah, the older the soul, the deeper the cave. The Hermit is known to be the wise older version of the Magician. So it's basically having all of this wisdom and knowledge available to kind of see the meaning, see the greater meaning behind life, behind our experiences, and to really kind of be open to the magic of the universe and divine timing, and really it's kind of like seeing the world as your playground but also your school. So it's finding the opportunities to enjoy yourself, getting to know yourself better, stepping into authenticity, living a life that's most aligned, and recognizing that that is going to take you in the direction that you want to go in. but it's also trusting, trusting your own inner light, trusting your own inner wisdom, trusting that you can connect with information intuitively that's going to help you align further on your path. So you might be celebrating a period of greater self-awareness, and maybe you've been kind of hermiting and staying in your own energy, protecting your energy. Maybe you're now coming out of that and you're needing to connect with people more or celebrate more, or maybe you're just needing a little bit more enthusiasm, like maybe reasons to. However that applies to you, it's kind of an interesting combination of energy. But with the Hierophant here under the Queen of Cups, the Hierophant is kind of, there's a lot of wisdom, there's a lot of knowledge, but it's also a very highly structured type of energy. So it's an authority figure, and it's very often connected to religion. And while it can be very helpful, because to a certain degree, having a strong framework and a series of ways to do things can make it easier to accomplish our goals, it's also recognizing that you don't want to get caught up in structures that don't align with what you want to create, right? And so it's being aware, like on an emotional level, I think you know what makes sense to you, you know what calls to you. And so, for example, if you're practicing a religion, you're going to know if like a core value or a belief or something that you're expected to do as part of that religion doesn't feel right to you. And it's about honoring your emotions and your intuition and not feeling as though you have to participate in the structure or stay in the box, because sometimes we need to rebel a little bit, right? And so that knowledge is all well and fine. But so you can see there's all sorts of different religious symbols here. And it's basically saying, like, we have all of this knowledge available to us. It can be really easy to trap ourselves in the mindset that there's only one right way to do something. And that is not the case. So this can be about connecting to alternative views on spirituality. It can be connecting to new information that will open up opportunities for you to let go of anything that's constricting, or I would investigate, like, is there anything in particular that you feel like you have to do a certain way, or like there's only one right way to do it, or are you putting pressure on yourself to follow a framework in one way or another that doesn't feel right to you? So that could be what this emotional awareness and healing is connected to and trying to tell you. And that instead of trying to follow the crowd or listen to an authority figure, it's important to recognize your own personal power and follow your heart and your intuition and trust that that is real. That's more important than what somebody else is going to preach to you, essentially. The Nine of Wands coming here under the Page of Wands tells me that you might be feeling a little bit guarded. You might be keeping yourself from fully creating or fully connecting to your passion and your inspiration, or fully expressing yourself in whatever way that might take form to you. And this can be because you've been in a place where you've been put on the defensive or you felt judged. And so it's kind of like you're waiting here expecting, you're prepared for somebody to attack you. But you're also not kind of moving in your own direction. So it can be a little bit guarded. And it can also be about trying to like strategically assess your next move, because you don't necessarily feel safe moving forward at this time. And so it's basically, this is kind of saying, like, all you have to do is give yourself permission to start expressing yourself, to start connecting with that creativity and passion, incorporating that into your life, however that looks like for you, becoming more aware of the things that really excite you, the things that really light you up, and recognizing that those are important and they're longing to be expressed. That's an important part of all of this healing. And like maybe letting your walls down, and that could be walls. Maybe you've got a wall up to connecting with that kind of joy and enthusiasm. Maybe you've got a wall up in terms of letting other people in that are going to share that energy with you. With the Magician here under Judgment, it's basically saying, like, either you might have certain expectations or a certain idea of how you can accomplish something, because the Magician is about manifestation. It's about having the power to bring your visions into reality and to balance out all of the skills, like so that all of the suits represent, in such a way that you can, you know, you can communicate honestly, you can be inspired and take inspired action, you can take practical steps towards your goal. But then there's also a certain level of like just needing to trust that if you've got the vision and if you are taking the inspired action, that you kind of have to be open to the unfolding of things and feel your way through step by step. And that's the power of manifestation, is that the Magician knows that he has everything he needs to achieve what he wants. And even if it doesn't materialize immediately, which manifestation doesn't, it takes time, that it's about being patient and focused on staying in that energy and trusting that things will unfold, and not being tied to them unfolding in a specific way or getting a specific outcome. It's kind of, you know, all you can do is the best that you can with your energy and to stay focused on what you're trying to move toward. And you kind of have to work with life and ebb and flow with life and recognize that the things that are happening for you, especially when you're in that energy. So maybe you're judging your ability to manifest, or your ability to kind of stay balanced when you're moving along your path or trying to manifest something into your life. Or maybe this could be like a spiritual thing where you're connecting with the ability to manifest and to balance out, you know, the world of the unseen with the world of the seen. And perhaps you're afraid of truly leaning into your power because you'll be judged, or because maybe the people around you don't fully understand or won't be supportive of it. So however that makes sense to you, that's really interesting. But it's basically saying like, your beliefs about yourself and your beliefs about the situation, whatever that is the only thing holding you back, because you really do have everything that you need. And once you release yourself of judgment, you'll be more likely to be able to connect to this energy. With the Ace of Swords under the Ace of Cups, I absolutely love that, because like I said, this is an opportunity for, you know, deep connections and love and joy and happiness. And the Ace of Swords is all about an opportunity to connect with new perspectives, new information, you know, new beliefs. This can be like a new level of truth. It can be like a realization and awakening, like an aha moment, right? That kind of shifts your perspective on life or yourself or a specific relationship, right? So if you're willing to connect with the opportunities to receive and express love and to connect with joy and like deep meaning and invest in that this month, chances are it might completely change your outlook on the situation, and it might help you connect more with this belief that everything is working out for you. Everything is working out for your highest good, even if you can't see now. And it might also help you get a new perspective on what has happened, right? And this 10 of Swords energy, so everything that you've been through, all of the things that have inspired challenging thoughts, and all of the stress that you've been kind of carrying and the fear that you've experienced. It's kind of taking a look back at that and seeing, is there anything now that you were experiencing like 2 or 3 years ago that now makes sense, that when you were in the moment, it felt like you were being victimized by life and it was hurtful and not fair, but you worked through it no matter how difficult, and now you've got a perspective on what exactly that meant to you or how that impacted you. So yeah, it could just be that getting a little bit more vulnerable with yourself, having a safe space to receive love and support from people as you work through whatever this is, might give you that new perspective on everything that you've been through. And with the Death card here under the 10 of Swords, it's basically just amplifying the fact that, you know, this energy has the opportunity to come to an end. You really can release and let go of it, because you don't need to be carrying that hurt and that pain or the fear or the anxiety with you if you've already gone through the experiences, whether it's loss or it's betrayal or you know, if the sense of not fitting in or not feeling supported, whatever that is. If you've already gone through it and experienced it, you've no doubt been changed by it and learned from it. So you don't have to carry those wounds, right? You don't have to keep those wounds open. And death is all about, yeah, accepting that, you know, life goes in cycles, right? And, you know, death and rebirth are part of that, right? And so it's being aware of the parts of yourself that you need to let die. So if you have had like a major shift in identity, or you've been through an identity crisis, it's like, what parts of you do you need to let go of from your past? What do you need to kind of just lay to rest? And it's not like a negative thing. It's a really freeing thing to be able to say like, hey, I'm transforming into a new version of myself, or the old version of myself died, and what habits and thoughts and patterns are associated with that old version. Because if you've had experiences and you've learned lessons, you're at a new level, and it doesn't serve you to try and hold on to who you were before all of this happened. So it's basically like taking inventory of all the things that have changed, and it's like, what do you need to let go of and let die in your connection to yourself and your experiences in order to move into a new energy and give the opportunity for something new to be born, right? Your first affirmation: I begin my day with love. Not surprised. So self-love first, love for others, connecting with love and gratitude. It's going to help kind of like soften whatever it is that you're experiencing, because it does seem that vulnerability is kind of a theme this month. Your next affirmation: I share my light with the world. Very much with this Page of Wands energy. Giving yourself permission. Oh my goodness, I just dropped a bunch of cards. Okay, your next: I dish out compliments sincerely and liberally. That could be a part of interacting with those people that are in your community that you do connect with, that part of the love and support that you receive, sharing the love, right? And then, obsessing over the outcome of a relationship gets in the way. Instead, I let go and allow. All right, so yeah, that kind of goes hand in hand with if you've got difficult people in your orbit, or perhaps if this is because I've kind of got the vibe that this might be family oriented in terms of like not feeling connected to or aligned with, or as though you fit in. It's the more that you focus on that lack of alignment, the more that you worry about it, or that you try to influence it in a certain way, the more difficult things get. So it's just important to be able to flow with situations, to accept when people don't align or when people can't support you, to experience your emotions that come up as a result, not to hold on to them, and not to expect that people are going to change or behave differently. It's just kind of learning to accept people being where they're at, and that, you know, it doesn't necessarily align with where you're at, and you're not in a position to support each other, you know, mutually, right? So they can't support you in the way that you want to be supported, but in the same way you probably can't support them because you're in different places. So just not giving that too much of your time and attention, not letting you get yourself get into your head about it, and just try to flow through it, brush it off, right? As hard as it may be. So Sagittarius, that is your reading for this month. I'm sorry it went a little bit longer than intended, but I hope this was helpful and I hope you enjoyed. If you did, please like the video, and if you know of anyone who might be interested in these types of readings, you can feel free to share the video or my channel. And if you haven't already, you can hop on over to my channel at Bright Soul Collective Tarot, take a look at my other readings, and hit the subscribe button to stay up to date on new videos as they're posted. All right, Sagittarius, so we did it. Rallied, made it through. Love this reading for you. I hope this was helpful. I hope March is a wonderful month for you all. It was a pleasure to read for you. I can't wait to read for you again. And in the meantime, I'm wishing you all the very best.